Ladies and gentlemen, life can feel like a puzzle when the one who once lit up your world suddenly dims their light. The silence feels deafening and your heart aches to know why. But today, I want you to understand something profound. This moment isn't meant to break you, it's meant to build you. When someone who once expressed deep affection and care for you suddenly begins to ignore you, the initial reaction is often to internalize their behavior and wonder, what did I do wrong? This is a natural response, as human beings are wired to seek explanations for changes in the emotional connections they value. However, it's important to step back and recognize that their behavior might not have anything to do with you personally. It's easy to get caught in a spiral of self-doubt and overthinking, analyzing every word you said, every action you took, or even the tone of your voice in past conversations. But this perspective can lead you down a path of unnecessary pain, where you hold yourself accountable for things outside of your control. Understanding that their actions are not a reflection of your value is a crucial first step. People's behavior is shaped by a multitude of factors: past experiences, current stressors, internal insecurities, and emotional capacity at any given moment. While their love for you may have been genuine and deep, their sudden withdrawal can stem from issues they might not even fully understand themselves. Perhaps they're dealing with unresolved trauma, fear of vulnerability, or feelings of inadequacy that make it difficult for them to maintain closeness. They might be navigating challenges in other areas of their life, such as career pressures or family dynamics, which leave them emotionally unavailable despite their feelings for you. The challenge lies in separating their actions from your sense of self-worth. When someone pulls away, it can trigger feelings of rejection and inadequacy, making you question your own value. You may start to wonder if you weren't good enough, if you didn't love them in the right way, or if you somehow failed to meet their expectations. But these thoughts are rooted in the assumption that their behavior is a direct response to something you did or didn't do. More often than not, this isn't the case. Their actions are a reflection of their own internal state, their fears and their coping mechanisms, not a measure of your worth or the depth of your love. Recognizing this requires a shift in perspective. Instead of internalizing their withdrawal, try to view it as an expression of their struggles. This doesn't mean excusing their behavior or dismissing the hurt it causes you, but rather understanding that their actions are likely not meant to punish or devalue you. They are navigating their own emotional terrain, which may be filled with uncertainty, confusion, or unresolved pain. It's possible that their withdrawal is a defense mechanism, a way to protect themselves from feelings they don't know how to process, or a situation they don't feel equipped to handle. It's also important to acknowledge that everyone has different capacities for emotional connection. Some people are deeply affected by their past relationships, family dynamics, or even societal pressures, which can influence how they navigate love and intimacy. They may carry fears of abandonment, rejection, or failure that cause them to pull away even when they feel strongly for someone. In their minds, creating distance might feel like a way to regain control or protect themselves from potential hurt, even if it comes at the cost of the relationship. Another layer to consider is that emotional withdrawal can sometimes be a subconscious response. They might not even fully understand why they're pulling away. People often struggle to articulate their feelings or identify the root causes of their behavior, which can lead to actions that seem confusing or hurtful to others. In these cases, their silence or distance isn't about you, it's about their own journey of self-discovery and healing. The key is to resist the urge to take their behavior as a personal slight or a commentary on your value. This is easier said than done, especially when you care deeply for someone and want to understand their actions. But by detaching their behavior from your self-perception, you give yourself the freedom to approach the situation with clarity and compassion. Instead of spiraling into self-blame, you can begin to see their withdrawal as a sign of their internal struggles, a signal that they may need time and space to work through their emotions. This understanding doesn't necessarily make their actions hurt any less, but it can help you maintain your emotional balance. By recognizing that their withdrawal is more about them than it is about you, you can create a mental and emotional buffer that protects you from unnecessary self-doubt. This allows you to approach the situation with empathy while also preserving your own sense of self-worth. It's not about dismissing your feelings or pretending the situation doesn't affect you, but rather about reframing your perspective so that their actions don't define how you see yourself. Their behavior might be confusing and even hurtful, but it's important to remember that every individual has their own emotional landscape to navigate. Their journey might be messy, unpredictable, and entirely independent of your efforts to love and support them. By recognizing that their withdrawal is likely rooted in their own challenges, you can free yourself from the burden of taking on responsibility for their actions. This clarity allows you to process your emotions without becoming trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, paving the way for a healthier and more balanced approach to the situation. When faced with the unsettling silence of someone you care about, the instinctive reaction is often to address it head-on. You might feel an overwhelming urge to call, text, or demand answers, hoping to bridge the gap and ease your growing unease. This reaction, while entirely natural, is rooted in the need for immediate resolution, a way to quell the discomfort and uncertainty that their withdrawal creates within you. However, reacting impulsively in emotionally charged moments often leads to further confusion, miscommunication, or even regret. That is why it is vital to pause, reflect, and regain composure before taking any action. The pause is not an act of inaction, it is an intentional and empowering choice. It creates the necessary space for you to examine your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. When someone you love ignores you, it stirs a cocktail of feelings: sadness, frustration, anxiety, and even anger. These emotions, if left unchecked, can drive you to act in ways that don't align with your best self. Pausing allows you to sit with these emotions, to feel them fully, and to understand what they're telling you. Are you hurt because you feel unappreciated? Are you anxious because you fear abandonment? Or are you frustrated because their behavior seems unfair? Identifying the root of your feelings is essential, as it helps you separate your emotions from their actions, providing clarity on how to move forward. Reflection during this pause is equally important. It's easy to get caught up in the immediate need to resolve the situation, but reflection invites you to step back and consider the bigger picture. Ask yourself, why might they be pulling away? Is there something they're struggling with that has nothing to do with you? Have you noticed any patterns in their behavior that suggest they're dealing with internal challenges? Reflecting doesn't mean excusing their actions, but it does encourage empathy and a deeper understanding of the situation. It shifts the focus from reacting to comprehending, which is a far more constructive approach. When you pause and reflect, you also give yourself the gift of time. Time to process your emotions, time to think about the situation from different perspectives, and time to choose your response wisely. In a world that often glorifies quick fixes and instant gratification, taking time can feel counterintuitive, but meaningful relationships and the challenges that come with them require patience and thoughtful navigation. Time allows you to respond from a place of calm and confidence rather than fear or frustration. It's also worth noting that reacting impulsively can sometimes exacerbate the situation. When emotions are high, communication can become clouded. You might say things in the heat of the moment that you later wish you hadn't, or you might misinterpret their behavior and respond in a way that pushes them further away. Pausing reduces the risk of these missteps. It gives you the opportunity to approach the situation with clarity and intention, ensuring that your response aligns with your values and the outcome you truly desire. Pausing and reflecting also provides an opportunity to reclaim your personal power. When someone you love pulls away, it can feel as though the control over the situation is entirely in their hands. Their actions or lack thereof dictate your emotional state, leaving you feeling vulnerable and powerless. But the truth is, you have more control than you realize. The pause allows you to regain your footing, to remind yourself that you are in charge of how you respond and how you choose to feel. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending the situation doesn't affect you. It's about recognizing that your power lies in your ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This pause is also a time to reconnect with yourself. Often, when we're consumed by the actions of others, We lose sight of our own needs, values, and desires. Use this time to reflect on what truly matters to you. What do you need from this relationship? What boundaries do you want to establish to protect your emotional well-being? What steps can you take to nurture yourself during this time of uncertainty? These reflections not only provide clarity on the situation, but also strengthen your sense of self, helping you navigate the relationship from a place of confidence and self-respect. Furthermore, pausing and reflecting sets the tone for healthier communication. When you've taken the time to process your emotions and understand the situation, you're better equipped to have a constructive conversation with the other person. Instead of approaching them with accusations or demands, you can express your feelings calmly and clearly, fostering an environment of understanding rather than conflict. This approach increases the likelihood of a productive dialogue where both parties feel heard and respected. Lastly, pausing and reflecting allows you to assess whether action is even necessary. Sometimes the best course of action is no action at all. Silence can be a powerful tool, not as a form of manipulation, but as a way to protect your energy and give the other person the space they may need to work through their own emotions. By stepping back and allowing the situation to unfold naturally, you demonstrate self-restraint and emotional maturity, which can have a profound impact on the relationship. Choosing to pause and reflect rather than react is an act of self-care and emotional intelligence. It shifts the focus from external validation to internal understanding, empowering you to navigate the situation with grace and clarity. In doing so, you honor not only the relationship but also yourself. When someone you care about begins to ignore you, it's tempting to shift your focus entirely onto them. You might obsess over their behavior, analyzing their every action or lack of response, and attempt to decipher what it all means. However, this constant fixation on their behavior can lead to emotional exhaustion and create an unhealthy dynamic where your well-being becomes dependent on their actions. Instead, it's essential to shift the focus inward, prioritizing your emotional and mental health. This doesn't mean ignoring the situation or pretending it doesn't affect you. It means taking the necessary steps to nurture yourself and regain your sense of balance and stability. The first step in prioritizing your emotional and mental health is to acknowledge and validate your feelings. It's natural to feel hurt, confused, or even angry when someone you care about pulls away. Suppressing these emotions or dismissing them as unimportant only amplifies the pain over time. Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling without judgment. Cry if you need to. Write in a journal. Talk to a trusted friend. Acknowledging your emotions doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. It's a necessary part of the healing process, and it lays the foundation for moving forward in a healthier way. Once you've allowed yourself to process your emotions, it's important to create space for self-care. Self-care is more than just pampering yourself. It's about actively engaging in activities that support your well-being. This might include exercising to release built-up tension, practicing mindfulness or meditation to calm your mind, or spending time in nature to reconnect with yourself. When you focus on self-care, you remind yourself that your happiness and health are worth investing in. You take the power away from the situation by redirecting your energy towards something that uplifts and strengthens you. Reclaiming your emotional health also involves setting boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of constantly checking your phone, replaying conversations in your head, or dwelling on what they might be thinking or doing. These habits can quickly become all-consuming, leaving you feeling stuck and powerless. Setting boundaries means recognizing when your thoughts or actions are no longer serving you and consciously choosing to redirect your focus. For instance, you might decide to limit how often you check for their messages or allocate specific times during the day to reflect on the situation, rather than letting it consume your every waking moment. Another aspect of prioritizing your emotional health is engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. When someone's behavior starts to dominate your thoughts, it's easy to lose sight of the things that make you happy. Revisit hobbies you love, explore new interests, or spend time with people who uplift and support you. By immersing yourself in positive and enriching experiences, you create a buffer against the negative emotions triggered by the situation. You remind yourself that your life is filled with opportunities for growth, connection, and joy, regardless of how someone else is behaving. It's also crucial to pay attention to your self-talk during this time. The way you speak to yourself has a profound impact on your mental and emotional state. If you constantly blame yourself for their withdrawal or question your worth, you're reinforcing a narrative that doesn't serve you. Instead, practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that you are doing the best you can in a difficult situation. Replace self-critical thoughts with affirmations that reinforce your value and resilience. This shift in mindset takes time and effort, but it's a powerful way to reclaim control over your emotions. Seeking support is another important step in prioritizing your mental health. While it's tempting to isolate yourself when you're feeling hurt, reaching out to trusted friends, family, or even a therapist can provide comfort and perspective. Talking to someone who cares about you and sees your worth can remind you that you're not alone and that you are deserving of love and respect. Support systems not only provide emotional validation, but also help you navigate the situation with greater clarity and confidence. Focusing on your mental health also means addressing any underlying patterns or triggers that the situation might have brought to light. Sometimes someone's behavior can tap into old wounds or insecurities that magnify your emotional response. For example, their withdrawal might trigger feelings of abandonment or fear of rejection that stem from past experiences. Identifying these patterns can be uncomfortable, but it's a necessary step toward healing and growth. By recognizing how your past influences your present, you gain the tools to respond in healthier ways and break free from cycles that no longer serve you. Practicing gratitude can also be a powerful tool for maintaining emotional balance. When you're consumed by the pain of someone's withdrawal, it's easy to overlook the positive aspects of your life. Take time each day to reflect on what you're grateful for, whether it's supportive friends, personal achievements, or simple pleasures like a beautiful sunset or a good meal. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, fostering a sense of abundance and contentment that counteracts feelings of lack or rejection. Finally, prioritizing your mental health means giving yourself permission to let go of what you cannot control. No matter how much you care about someone, you cannot force them to behave in a certain way or meet your expectations. Accepting this reality is not about giving up on the relationship, it's about freeing yourself from the burden of trying to control something that is ultimately out of your hands. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care enough about yourself to stop investing energy in things you cannot change. When someone who once cared deeply for you begins to pull away, it's easy to fall into the trap of blaming yourself. You may start questioning your worth, wondering if you failed to meet their expectations, or thinking that you were somehow inadequate in the relationship. This is a natural and human response, as we often tie our self-esteem and sense of value to how others treat us. However, it's essential to understand that a person's decision to withdraw or ignore you has more to do with their own internal struggles than with any fault of yours. People carry their own baggage, their own fears, and their own emotional turmoil. These internal struggles often manifest in ways that seem confusing or hurtful to others, but they aren't necessarily a reflection of how they feel about you. It's crucial to recognize that just because someone pulls away, it doesn't mean you've done something wrong. Their behavior may stem from their own emotional challenges, past experiences, or fears that they are unable or unwilling to confront. For instance, some individuals are afraid of vulnerability. They may fear that getting too close to someone could lead to rejection or hurt, even if they deeply care about that person. These fears can cause them to retreat or shut down, not because they don't love you, but because they're trying to protect themselves from potential emotional pain. If someone is struggling with feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt, they might withdraw because they feel unworthy of love, even though they still have strong feelings for you. This emotional distance can be seen as a defense mechanism, a way to avoid facing uncomfortable emotions that they don't know how to process. Sometimes people withdraw because they are dealing with stressors in other areas of their life. They may be facing pressure at work, dealing with family problems, or struggling with personal issues that make it difficult for them to connect with others. During times of emotional turmoil, some individuals tend to close off from those around them, even if those people are a source of support and love. This withdrawal isn't a reflection of their feelings toward you, it's more about their inability to handle everything that's happening in their life at the moment. It's also important to understand that emotional withdrawal can be a subconscious action. A person might not even be fully aware of why they're pulling away, let alone be able to articulate it. They might not know how to communicate their feelings, or they may be too overwhelmed by their own emotions to engage with others. In these cases, their behavior can feel confusing and painful, but it isn't meant to hurt you. Instead, it reflects their own inner struggle that they haven't yet figured out how to address. In these situations, it's essential not to take their behavior personally. It can be easy to think that their distance is a direct reflection of your actions or worth, but often it has little to do with you at all. When we internalize their actions, we run the risk of amplifying our own insecurities, creating a narrative that reinforces the belief that we are not enough. This can lead to a cycle of self-blame and self-doubt, further distancing us from our own sense of value. By recognizing that their behavior is not necessarily about you, you can begin to detach from the need for validation from others, ultimately empowering yourself to take control of your emotions. Another reason people might withdraw is that they simply don't know how to handle relationships in a healthy way. Some individuals have grown up in environments where emotional connection wasn't modeled, or they may have experienced past relationships that ended in betrayal or heartbreak. These experiences can create deep-seated fears or emotional barriers that prevent them from fully engaging in a relationship, even when they genuinely care for the other person. In these cases, their withdrawal may be an unconscious pattern that they don't know how to break. At the same time, people's emotional availability can be influenced by their individual capacity for intimacy. Not everyone is equipped to handle emotional closeness in the same way. Some people are naturally more distant or reserved, while others thrive in emotionally open environments. Their behavior might be a reflection of how comfortable they feel with intimacy, not necessarily a reflection of their feelings toward you. Understanding these dynamics can help you view the situation from a place of compassion rather than resentment. By recognizing that their withdrawal is likely rooted in their own struggles and fears, you can avoid falling into the trap of taking their actions as a personal rejection. Instead, you can begin to approach the situation with empathy, understanding that their behavior is a reflection of their own emotional landscape. This doesn't mean you should tolerate mistreatment or ignore the impact their actions have on you. It's also important to remember that just because someone pulls away doesn't mean the relationship is over or that they don't care. People's emotions are complex and ever-changing. What may seem like a withdrawal today may be a temporary phase driven by external factors that have nothing to do with the relationship. By approaching the situation with patience and understanding, you give the other person the space they may need to process their emotions and work through their own challenges. Ultimately, recognizing that their behavior is often not about you allows you to maintain your sense of self-worth and emotional balance. It empowers you to detach from the need for validation from someone else and focus on your own healing and growth. When someone you care about starts ignoring you, it's easy to feel like the world is turning upside down. You might be overwhelmed with a range of emotions: hurt, confusion, sadness, even anger, as their sudden withdrawal makes you question the foundation of your relationship. Yet one of the most crucial steps you can take in these moments is to focus on reclaiming your own emotional stability and strength. This means not only taking control of your emotional responses, but also choosing to act from a place of empowerment rather than desperation or fear. The first part of reclaiming your emotional stability is understanding that your emotional state is not solely dependent on someone else's actions. When we invest deeply in a relationship, it's natural to tie our happiness and sense of security to the other person's behavior. But the truth is, your emotional well-being cannot and should not be contingent on how someone else treats you. By taking responsibility for your emotions and deciding not to let their behavior dictate how you feel, you regain control over your inner world. This doesn't mean denying your feelings, rather, it means not allowing those feelings to overwhelm you or define your actions. You acknowledge your emotions, but you don't let them run the show. The next crucial step in reclaiming your emotional stability is shifting your mindset. When someone withdraws, the immediate reaction might be to assume the worst, that they no longer care, that you're not good enough, or that the relationship is ending. These negative thoughts can create a mental spiral, making you feel helpless and desperate for validation. However, choosing to view the situation through a more balanced lens is a powerful way to regain emotional control. Rather than jumping to conclusions, remind yourself that there may be factors at play that have nothing to do with you. They might be dealing with personal issues, emotional struggles, or stress that you're unaware of. By adopting this perspective, you stop personalizing their actions and create space for a more rational, balanced understanding of the situation. Reclaiming emotional stability also involves embracing self-compassion. When someone pulls away, it's easy to slip into self-blame or self-criticism, questioning what you could have done differently or what you did wrong. But being kind to yourself during times of emotional turmoil is essential. Recognize that you are worthy of love, respect, and understanding, not because of how someone else behaves, but because of who you are as a person. Self-compassion is the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend. It's about acknowledging that you're doing the best you can in a difficult situation and that your worth is not defined by someone else's actions or choices. Another key aspect of reclaiming emotional stability is grounding yourself in the present moment. It's all too easy to get caught up in worries about the future or to ruminate on what has already happened. Thoughts like, what will happen if they don't come back, or what did I do wrong, can spiral into anxiety, preventing you from staying rooted in the present. Grounding techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, or simply focusing on your breath can help you refocus and regain a sense of calm. These practices allow you to separate your emotional reactions from the situation itself, giving you the clarity to act with intention rather than from a place of emotional overwhelm. Creating emotional stability also involves setting healthy boundaries for yourself. When someone starts ignoring you, the instinctive reaction might be to chase after them, sending texts or making calls in the hopes of getting their attention and regaining the connection. However, this often leads to frustration, disappointment, and further emotional turmoil. Instead, choose to set boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. Give yourself the space to breathe and resist the urge to engage in behaviors that reinforce your emotional dependence on someone else. This could mean taking a step back from communication, refraining from excessive social media checking, or simply allowing yourself time to process the situation without feeling pressured to resolve it immediately. Another important part of reclaiming emotional stability is recognizing and addressing your fears. When someone withdraws, it can trigger deep-seated fears of abandonment, rejection, or inadequacy. These fears are natural but can also be powerful emotional forces that influence your thoughts and behavior. By acknowledging these fears and exploring where they stem from, you can begin to release their grip on your emotional state. Understanding that your fears are often rooted in past experiences or insecurities rather than the current situation allows you to respond to the present moment more clearly and confidently. It's also helpful to focus on self-growth during times of emotional challenge. When someone pulls away, it can feel like an interruption to your emotional equilibrium. Yet this can be an opportunity for personal development and growth. Use this time to invest in your own well-being, whether that means exploring new hobbies, deepening your understanding of yourself, or strengthening other relationships in your life. This not only helps you maintain emotional balance, but also fosters a sense of fulfillment and purpose that is independent of someone else's actions. By focusing on your own growth, you reinforce the understanding that your happiness and stability are not dependent on someone else's presence or approval. Finally, reclaiming emotional stability involves remembering your personal power. It's easy to feel powerless when someone you care about withdraws, as if you have no control over the situation. But the truth is, you have the power to choose how you respond. You have the power to decide how much emotional energy you invest in the situation. You have the power to protect your peace and well-being, no matter what is happening externally. Recognizing and embracing this power empowers you to act from a place of strength and resilience, rather than from fear or desperation. When you prioritize your emotional stability, you stop allowing external circumstances to dictate your internal state. You recognize that you are not helpless in the face of someone's withdrawal. Instead, you are fully capable of managing your emotions and taking control of your reactions. This mindset shift allows you to navigate challenging emotional moments with grace and resilience, knowing that your emotional well-being is in your hands, not theirs. When someone you care about suddenly begins to ignore you, it's easy to become fixated on the idea that the relationship is over or that their feelings for you have changed. However, instead of giving in to the immediate rush of emotions and assuming the worst, it's important to adopt a perspective that allows you to step back and gain a deeper understanding of the situation. Recognizing that you can't control other people's actions, but you can control your own response, is the first step toward regaining your emotional balance and inner peace. This perspective shift is crucial for your emotional growth, as it allows you to navigate challenging moments with strength and clarity, rather than getting lost in the chaos of uncertainty. One of the key elements to understanding why someone might suddenly start ignoring you is recognizing that people's emotions and behaviors are often driven by internal factors that have little to do with you. When someone withdraws from you emotionally, it could be because they are dealing with personal issues, stress, or emotional baggage that they don't know how to communicate. These internal struggles might have nothing to do with your relationship or your actions, but instead reflect unresolved challenges they are facing in their own life. They might be dealing with work pressure, family conflicts, or internal fears that cause them to retreat from those they care about, even if they don't want to. In these moments, it's crucial to remind yourself that their behavior is a reflection of their internal state and not necessarily a reflection of your worth or your relationship with them. Furthermore, people often don't know how to process emotions in a healthy way. Some may struggle with communication, finding it difficult to express their feelings, especially when they are overwhelmed or confused. This inability to communicate effectively can lead them to withdraw instead of confronting their emotions directly. Rather than expressing their discomfort, fear, or confusion, they may unconsciously push others away. This isn't an indication of a lack of care or love, but rather a manifestation of their emotional limitations. When you understand this, it becomes easier to detach from feelings of rejection or inadequacy, and instead you can approach the situation with empathy and understanding, knowing that their behavior may stem from their own emotional struggles rather than your shortcomings. In these situations, it's also important to remember that emotional withdrawal doesn't always signify a permanent end to a relationship. Sometimes people need space to process their own emotions, reflect on their feelings, or work through challenges in their personal lives. The time and space they need may not be about distancing themselves from you permanently, but about giving themselves the opportunity to regain emotional clarity. While it can be painful to experience this withdrawal, it doesn't necessarily mean the relationship is doomed. In fact, by recognizing that space is sometimes necessary for personal growth and emotional healing, you can approach the situation with patience, understanding that this period of distance may be temporary. Another factor that can contribute to someone's emotional withdrawal is their own fear of vulnerability. Many individuals struggle with the fear of being emotionally open, especially when they care deeply about someone. The fear of getting hurt, being rejected, or being judged can be overwhelming, causing them to pull back as a form of self-protection. This fear is often rooted in past experiences, such as previous heartbreak or betrayal, which shape how they approach relationships in the present. Their withdrawal may be an unconscious response to these fears, rather than a reflection of their feelings toward you. Understanding this can help you avoid taking their behavior personally, and instead you can respond with empathy and compassion, acknowledging that their fear of vulnerability may be preventing them from fully connecting with you in the way they would like to. In some cases, someone may withdraw simply because they are feeling overwhelmed by the intensity of their emotions or by the demands of the relationship itself. Relationships require emotional investment, and sometimes when people feel that they are not able to meet the expectations placed on them, they may withdraw as a way to cope with their sense of inadequacy or fear of failure. They might be dealing with feelings of guilt or self-doubt, which make them feel as though they are not living up to the other person's needs or desires. This can cause them to retreat as they process these emotions, hoping that the distance will give them clarity. While this can be painful, it's important to recognize that their withdrawal is often a result of their own struggles with self-esteem, rather than an indication of how they feel about you. The tendency to overanalyze a situation when someone starts ignoring you can also lead to unhealthy patterns of thought. You may begin to question your worth, doubting if you did something wrong or if you're somehow unworthy of their attention. These negative thought patterns can quickly spiral, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. However, it's important to recognize that these thoughts are often not based on reality. Instead of focusing on these harmful thoughts, shift your energy toward taking care of yourself, reinforcing your own sense of self-worth, and practicing self-compassion. Remind yourself that your value is not determined by someone else's behavior, and you have the power to choose how you respond to the situation. During times of emotional distance, it's also essential to stay connected with your own inner strength. Focus on nurturing your emotional well-being and engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Spend time with people who uplift and support you, and invest in things that contribute to your personal growth. This will not only help you maintain a sense of balance, but it will also give you the emotional resilience you need to face any challenges that come your way. By remaining grounded in your own sense of self, you create a solid foundation that allows you to respond to external challenges such as emotional withdrawal from a place of strength rather than vulnerability. It's crucial to remember that you cannot control other people's actions, but you can control how you respond to them. Instead of allowing someone else's emotional withdrawal to dictate how you feel about yourself, use this time as an opportunity to reinforce your emotional independence. Acknowledge the pain and frustration that comes with feeling ignored, but don't allow it to take control of your emotional state. By choosing to focus on your own emotional growth and self-care, you regain your sense of inner strength and resilience, and you give yourself the freedom to navigate this challenging situation with grace and clarity. When someone you deeply care about begins to pull away or withdraw from communication, it can be incredibly painful. The silence, the lack of attention, and the absence of connection can all trigger a wave of negative emotions. At the same time, this situation opens up an opportunity to reflect on your own emotional responses and grow through the experience. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in response to emotional withdrawal is to focus on self-growth during this period of emotional turmoil. Self-growth is about making the conscious decision to use challenging situations such as emotional withdrawal as a platform for personal development. Rather than allowing yourself to get caught in a spiral of negative thoughts and emotions, choose to turn inward and use the time to focus on your own well-being and progress. Emotional detachment or distance is often uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be a setback. Instead, it can be an opportunity to reconnect with yourself, learn more about your own needs, and strengthen your sense of self. When someone pulls away, it often prompts a lot of self-reflection. You might begin to question your own actions and wonder if you've done something wrong or if you're somehow unworthy of their attention. While these thoughts are natural, they can also be destructive if allowed to dominate your mind. The first step in self-growth is to move away from this pattern of self-doubt and insecurity. Instead of questioning your worth, focus on recognizing the value you bring to the relationship and, more importantly, the value you bring to your own life. You are not defined by someone else's behavior or their emotional availability. You are whole and complete on your own, and this realization can provide you with a foundation of emotional strength. An important aspect of self-growth is understanding that emotional pain is not something to avoid, but something to learn from. When we experience emotional discomfort, whether from someone ignoring us or from the fear of abandonment, we have an opportunity to explore what is truly triggering those emotions. Is it a fear of being rejected? A fear of being unlovable? Perhaps it's an unconscious attachment to the idea of approval or validation from others. When you take the time to explore these underlying triggers, you begin to understand yourself on a much deeper level. This self-awareness is a powerful tool for personal growth. It allows you to recognize the emotional patterns that have been influencing your behavior, and with that recognition, you gain the power to change them. Moreover, focusing on self-growth during a period of emotional withdrawal helps you to develop emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt to challenging situations, and keep moving forward without being overwhelmed by negative emotions. By shifting your energy away from reacting to the other person's behavior and toward your own growth, you develop the inner strength necessary to handle whatever comes your way. This can be especially empowering in situations where emotional withdrawal feels like a blow to your self-esteem or sense of security. Rather than letting the silence affect your confidence, you choose to embrace the discomfort and transform it into an opportunity to strengthen your emotional fortitude. Another key element of self-growth during emotional detachment is the practice of self-compassion. When someone withdraws from you, it's easy to become overly critical of yourself. You might wonder what you could have done differently or why things aren't working out the way you envisioned. These thoughts often arise from a place of insecurity, where your sense of worth is contingent on the approval of others. Self-compassion is the antidote to this. It involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer to a friend in a similar situation. By practicing self-compassion, you can shift from a mindset of self-criticism to one of self-acceptance. This not only helps you navigate the current situation with more emotional balance, but it also lays the groundwork for healthier emotional habits in the future. One powerful aspect of focusing on self-growth is developing a deeper understanding of your own needs and desires. When you experience emotional withdrawal from someone, it forces you to look inward and evaluate what you truly need in a relationship. This introspection can help you gain clarity about what you value most, whether it's respect, attention, emotional availability, or something else. Understanding your own emotional needs allows you to set healthier boundaries and make better decisions about the types of relationships and connections you want to foster in the future. It empowers you to avoid staying in situations that drain you or leave you feeling unappreciated, and it allows you to prioritize your own emotional well-being in a way that supports your overall growth. During times of emotional detachment, it's also important to remember the power of pursuing personal passions and interests. Often, when we become emotionally invested in someone, we can unintentionally lose sight of the things that bring us joy and fulfillment outside of the relationship. This can leave us feeling emotionally unbalanced when the other person withdraws. By taking the time to reconnect with your hobbies, passions, and interests, you create a sense of emotional fulfillment that is independent of the other person's behavior. Whether it's engaging in creative activities, pursuing professional goals, or spending time with friends and family, nurturing your own passions will not only help you maintain emotional balance, but it will also help you rediscover your own identity and sense of purpose. This will strengthen your emotional foundation, making you less reliant on external validation for your sense of self-worth. The period of emotional withdrawal can also be a valuable opportunity to build stronger connections with yourself and with others in your life. While you may be experiencing distance from one person, it's a perfect time to nurture other relationships that offer support and positivity. These connections can serve as a reminder that you are loved, appreciated, and valued regardless of someone's emotional availability. Surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and bring you joy helps to reinforce your sense of belonging and self-worth. Additionally, spending time with people who understand and support you can provide emotional healing and perspective during challenging times. Lastly, embracing self-growth during periods of emotional withdrawal allows you to cultivate a sense of emotional independence. When someone pulls away, it can trigger feelings of dependency, where you might feel like you need their presence or attention to feel whole. This is the perfect moment to reinforce your emotional autonomy. You have the ability to stand strong on your own without needing someone else to validate your existence or your worth. This process of emotional independence doesn't mean rejecting love or connection, but rather it means that you are complete in yourself and capable of handling emotional challenges without feeling lost or overwhelmed. By embracing this inner strength, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of needing constant reassurance from others. When someone you care about begins to ignore you, it's natural to feel a deep sense of confusion, hurt, and even resentment. In many cases, the initial response is to blame yourself, to question what went wrong, or to try to force communication to reestablish connection. However, what if instead of diving into these feelings of frustration, you chose to pause and reflect on the deeper dynamics of the relationship? What if, rather than chasing after the other person's attention or trying to regain their affection through external actions, you focused on understanding that this situation can be a mirror for your own emotional health, growth, and understanding? One of the most powerful steps you can take when confronted with someone's emotional distance is to recognize that their actions may have nothing to do with you. While it's easy to internalize the silence as a personal rejection, the truth is that people's behaviors are often influenced by their own inner conflicts, fears, and uncertainties. It's possible that the person pulling away is dealing with emotional struggles they haven't shared with you, fears they are unable to voice, or unresolved issues from their past that they are grappling with internally. These personal struggles can manifest as withdrawal or avoidance, but they are not necessarily indicative of a lack of love or care for you. This understanding can bring some emotional relief, allowing you to avoid the trap of self-blame and instead open yourself to a more compassionate response. In moments of emotional distance, it's crucial to embrace the reality that you cannot control another person's actions, nor should you try to. People change, they evolve, and sometimes they withdraw as part of their own emotional process. When you try to control someone else's feelings or behavior, you surrender your own emotional autonomy. Instead, taking a step back and giving both yourself and the other person the space needed to process can lead to a more balanced and healthier dynamic. You may feel an urge to initiate communication, to try to fix things, or to demand an explanation, but recognizing that emotional space can be a natural part of personal growth for both individuals is key. This approach allows you to detach from the immediate urge to fix the situation, giving both parties time to reflect, heal, and come to a clearer understanding of their own feelings. During this time, it's essential to resist the urge to spiral into negative thinking. When ignored, our minds often race with questions: why don't they love me anymore? Or what did I do wrong? These questions, though valid, are often based on assumptions and fears, not reality. What if instead of assuming the worst, you reframe the situation by recognizing that silence is not necessarily a statement of rejection? Silence can be a form of self-preservation for someone who is struggling, a space they need to find clarity, or a sign that they are processing emotions they may not yet know how to express. Understanding that silence is not an attack or a judgment on your worth can help free you from the suffocating grip of negative thoughts. In this way, you can focus on healing and understanding the situation without it spiraling into self-doubt and insecurity. Equally important is the understanding that emotional withdrawal can signal that both individuals in the relationship need to reevaluate their expectations and boundaries. Sometimes, when people get too close to others, they may unintentionally lose sight of their own needs and emotional boundaries. The silence or withdrawal can, in some cases, be a way for the person to reclaim some of their individuality or personal space. This doesn't mean they don't care about you, but rather that they might need to rediscover who they are outside of the relationship. Relationships require balance, the ability to give and take, to communicate needs, and to respect each other's boundaries. When one person becomes overwhelmed, it's not uncommon for them to retreat temporarily to reestablish their sense of self. Understanding this can help you approach the situation with patience rather than frustration.